Hello, and welcome to episode 188 of The Joy of Coding. My name's Mike Conley. Where is my drink? I'm pretty sure I brought... Yeah. How are you? How's it going? I got a haircut, and I believe streaming to YouTube is working today. Last week we had some difficulty with the stream, but I did a double check and everything seems to be working properly. So hopefully if you're watching this on YouTube Live, or Twitch, that you're getting the packets correctly. Special shout out to Danny Colin, who I don't believe is watching this right now live, but will be watching the recording because I know that I believe now that school's started, it's difficult for Danny to watch the live stream. So I thought I'd give a shout out there because Danny's been watching and helping out with the episode guide and whatnot. So I wanted to say hi. Let's get started. Here's my screen. Hold on, I'm just going to adjust the camera a little bit so that you can see my chin. What are we doing today? Well, today is September 4th, episode 188 of this year, 2019. Reminder, of course, for the people who are new, no plan survives breakfast. I want you to know that what we're about to do, what you're about to see, is completely unplanned, unscripted. I don't have pre-written solutions for anything. I'm going in blind. I'm going in effectively like I would with any other bit of work, where I'm going to be coming up with solutions on the fly for the things that we're looking at. Or maybe I'll be reviewing code. Who knows what I'll be doing today? I haven't really decided. If you'll notice, the agenda is empty. So I'm going to be like coming up with what I want to do on the fly. But whatever I do is completely unprepared and unscripted. So if things might go wrong, I might get stuck. We might get sidetracked. Who knows? That's all part of the game. The second thing is that there is an agenda. This is this thing that we're looking at right now, and there are lots of handy dandy links that you can click on, lots of stuff that you could follow up on, and it's not useful if you're trying to click on a video. So you need an access point to the agenda, and if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link to the agenda in the video description. And if you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's in the handout section, and if you're watching this on Twitch, and here is the agenda. I'm putting it in the Twitch chat right now. There it goes. It's in the Twitch chat. Boom. And yeah, that's it. The last thing I want to mention before we get into the episode is the episode guide. This is something that is completely viewer driven. We've got guides going up to episode... Oh, sorry, it's in reverse now. Guides going all the way up to episode 185, although I believe there are a couple of new guides that are sitting in my pull request list that I should merge. Maybe we'll do that today. But these guides are interesting because they'll cover some of the topics that we went through on a particular episode. Maybe they'll link to the notes or the bugs, some other important information, some of the tooling maybe I use, some useful links maybe. Links to the agenda and the episode themselves. And all of this stuff is like, if you want to add more, if there's maybe addenda, corrections, you want to expand on something, feel free. Send me a pull request to the GitHub repository for the episode guide. The episode guide is for you, the viewers. So if you have some information that you think would be useful to add, like, who knows, maybe you want to talk about MozFab. Maybe you know about some interesting feature of the MozFab code submission tool. Or maybe you have some additional information about how these bugs were approached or how they got fixed, or maybe some additional information about bugs. You can send that to me as a pull request. And you can do that on the GitHub page. And, apparently there's a security vulnerability in one of my dependencies. I'll have to look at that later. In the meantime, let's take a look at our pull requests. Episodes 186 and 187. Let's take a look at what SmurfD sent us. Here's episode 186. What I like to do whenever I look at these is check out the header. Yep, that was August 14th and episode number 186. That's right. And then make sure it's linking properly to the right episode, 186. That's right. And then the agenda, make sure it's linked up properly. 186, that looks right. And then topics that I covered. Videos shifted down in picture-in-picture player window. I've linked to Code Tribute. I was talking a little bit about Matrix and Matterbridge and the new Firefox Nightly logo wallpaper that someone linked to. Okay, this all looks right. So I'm going to merge this in. It looks good to me. Thank you very much, SmurfD. always say thanks to your contributors. So that's done. And then the next one up is episode 187. That was last week's episode. Let's take a quick peek. Episode 187. Again. Oh, hold up. How does this work? Files changed, commits. Oh, I see. This is merging the two commits. So let's just jump to the one commit, 187. So yeah, August 28th, 187. Let's look at the video real quick. Was that 187? Yes, it is. And the agenda. Yes. Topics. We talked a little bit about subframe crashing. Ooh, that's something we should look at today. Yes, we should look at that today. I think we should look at that today, hopefully. And we talked about Caesar, the Shakespeare play, Julius Caesar, and then we talked a little bit about Thunderbird. Okay, yeah, let's merge this in. Thank you very much, Smurf D. Thanks again. Booyah Shaka. Episodes 186 and 187 are now merged in. That means now if we go back to the original episode guide page and I refresh, hold on, I have to go back to the index. How do I go back to the index? Do I have a good way of doing that? Oh, I don't think I have a way of doing that inside the UI and the template. So there they are. Episodes 186 and 187 just showed up. Booyah Shaka. Thanks, Smurf D. All right, let's get on with what we were looking at. So looking at those episode guides, it reminded me that there is something I want to look at, which is the subframe crashing test again. Because we, I think I have, let me pump up the font here so you can see what I'm doing. Pretty sure, what am I on? Which Moz config am I using right now? Artifact. No, that can't be right. Oh, it's because I signed out, okay. So the subframe crashing test, I put up a patch to land it, what we had, but the problem was that if we look at my try push, there was like a whole bunch of stuff that just exploded on try. Let's take a look. It was right here, enabling the subframe crash regression test, all these oranges. In particular, under the fission test set, I'm getting all these oranges, and it's not clear to me whether or not these are like permanent oranges or not. So that's one thing I want to look at today. So let's copy this in. And the other thing I wanted to look at was this other patch that my intern, who just finished her internship, she had this patch that she had written that landed, but she had some XPC shell tests, or she had some test failures as well, and I wanted to determine whether or not they were real test failures. And I think I'll be able to determine that today. And the way I'll do that, just so you know, what she was working on was making it so that we don't touch the file system to look at the installs.ini file during startup on the main thread. So that gets rid of some main thread IO, which is nice. So we get rid of this whitelist entry. We get rid of a bunch of these properties that we don't need anymore. And we don't stat on the main thread, which is great. It also involved like updating this test. And then she pushed it to try, and she got like a whole bunch of test failures. Let's take a look at those test failures she got. Here, all of these test failures. But the thing is that I was getting similar test failures locally on my Linux box with or without the test. Or with or without the patch. So what I did was I rebased her patch on top of tip, I believe. Did I do that? Copy, cargo install force, graft, log. Yeah, sorry. It's difficult to tell because of the two streams here, but I took her patch here, which is, if you follow this line down, so what I've got here is like a graph of the DAG, what's called the directed acyclic graph. That's the representation of the commits inside inside of Mercurial. And so hgglog is my command for showing me the graph. And unfortunately, the representation isn't super useful here, or it's a little misleading. This commit is actually attached to a way earlier commit, way down in the tree. And what I did was I grafted or cherry picked in Git speak her commit on top of central. And so here's where we are right now. That's the @ symbol, and I'm on top of central, which is here. So it looks like, visually, it almost looks like this commit is based on top of this one because these two are lined up. But if you look at how the little circles are lined up, they're not. Like, this is not related to this commit. They are on two completely different branches of the tree. And so I'm at where I want to be. And what I wanted to do now was to run the test again to see if I get the same failures. And if not, then I want to push her patch to try again. So let's take a look at this test. Haha. I still saw some failures in there. Still failing. 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 Still fails. Now if I go back a commit, so hgprev will take me back to the central. I'm going to build again. So now I have undone her patch. And then I'm going to run the test again to see if it still fails. Building, building, building. Now, is there a way we can work on this in parallel? Or work on two things at once? So yeah, the other thing I wanted to look at was those subframe tests. Let me first copy this over into the agenda. Oh, fun fact, we have this button. We've apparently had it for a long time in Bugzilla, which just allows you, you may have seen me in the past, like painstakingly copy like the bug number and the summary, and that broke recently with a layout change in Bugzilla, because now I get like this stuff in here. But if I click on copy summary, it copies exactly what I need to the clipboard, and apparently that's been there for years and I just never noticed. Woo! Bugzilla, learning new stuff every day. Okay, linking libzool. Our nodes are up to date, although we're working on this one first. Okay, well, while we're waiting for that to link, there was another thing I was supposed to do. There's a review in my queue that we could look at from Heiss. Whoa. This is a... Okay, let's take a look at what this patch is all about. I think I know, but I want to double check. So let's add this to the agenda as well. We are reviewing that. Looks like the build's almost done, but let's keep going with this review. Set flash only pref on a per manifest suite basis instead of for all feature tests. I'm just going to read this out loud because I'm going to be reading it at the same time, and I'd rather you not just have to sit there and watch me read silently in my head. We currently set the plugin flash only pref to false for all tests that include the unit tests features pref. Okay, load flash only, yeah. This pref only allows using the test plugins in addition to flash, so it doesn't allow arbitrary NP API plugins, contrary to what the name might suggest, but it is not present in about config all.js static prefs. It's just that all the get calls default. It's just that calls default's value to true if it's not present. Okay. Right. It defaults to true if not present here. Okay. Fair enough. We want to avoid main thread IO by loading plugin info off the main thread and caching the Flash plugin info in a way that does not necessitate additional IO. To avoid having to store info for non-Flash plugins and the associated code complexity while maintaining the existing test coverage, I intend to gate this behavior on this existing pref so that tests that require non-Flash plugins will continue to work. They will not do the async loading and continue to do main thread IO, which is okay because it's just tests. However, we do need to test the new behavior and ensure it removes the relevant main thread IO and doesn't break the world. To do so, we need to move the pref flip to only happen in the tests that need the non-Flash plugins, and that's what this bug is for. That makes perfect sense. So we have like all of these test plugins for testing the NP API, plugin API. And with Flash being now the only type of plugin that Firefox will load, we want to sort of segment our tests a little bit so that all of the tests that require plugin stuff, like to test the NP API, it's probably just test the NP API. All the tests that require that are going to flip this pref, and then everything else that doesn't test the NP API won't have that pref flipped, which means that we don't, in those cases, don't have to do the main thread IO for the plugins. But it also means that we have to write new tests for the Flash case. We'll see how that works. So first of all, it turns out for the context menu tests, we do need to use the plugins, presumably because there is some kind of plugin test in here. That's interesting. What are the plugin tests under context menu? Okay, let me zoom in. Plugin. Aha, yes, it uses in browser context menu. It is checking the context menu command for enabling a plugin that is click to play. Okay, so that makes sense. Next one is under browser-based content test general. This one's for browser tab drag drop. Okay. Presumably tab drag drop uses plugin. Oh, it does indeed. What page have we loaded? Cache, object, value. What page is this? Tab 4. Tab 4 is this one, browser tab drag drop embed. Right, it's got our test plugin in there. Okay, makes sense. For, of course, browser-based content test plugins, naturally. For browser-based content test plugins, there's another set of plugin tests, so naturally. For browser components extensions test, which one's this for? Let's take a quick peek. Plugin data. I see there's some kind of extension API for browsing data. Browsing data API. Web extension browsing data. Plugin data. Okay, that makes sense. Clears data associated with plugins. All right. Makes perfect sense. Next one is DOM base test. That, I think we have a whole bunch of like plugin stuff in here. But where would it be? Actually, oh yeah, plugin audio. Yeah, for some audio stuff. Probably for like the audio indicators. DOM base test, Moki test. Plugin, audio not, auto start. Yeah, of course, at least for the auto start stuff. And yeah, plugin muted before play, naturally. Okay, next one's DOM HTML test. Which ones will that be for? Iframe sandbox. All these are just bug numbers. They're really not they're not very descriptive. So let's take a quick peek. DOM HTML test, Moki test. For full screen, the DOM full screen API, that's what's being tested. And then sandbox, the plugin sandbox, naturally. And what is next? Of course, DOM plugins test. That's a good one. Yep, this one for the Chrome tests makes sense. And for Moki test plain, yep. For security, mixed content blocking. Which of these tests use plugins? Mixed content blocker, test main. So plugin state, test plugin. Object. Block active, insecure object blocked. What? How does this work? Just run. File main. I think that's where the is there an object in here? Yeah, okay. And it creates an object. Type application X test. Okay, makes sense. This one is definitely using a plugin. Okay. Service workers need it. That's interesting. Why would service workers need this? For fetch, see if plugins are intercepted before fetch. Test not intercept plugin. All right, well, they use it. And then finally, other Moki tests, other DOM tests. Yeah, it needs the test plugin there. For the Chrome tests for layout. Chrome over plugin window, okay. Other layout tests. Yeah, Chrome layout based tests. Test flush on paint, okay. Here's it being used. Layout generic test. Boo-doo-doo. Autoland's open. Generic test. Plugin clipping. Right. Making sure that we get the right clipping. And what about Chrome? Sandy plugin utils. That I'm not familiar with, but clearly we're using them. And then ideally we should set this in a manifest, but accessibility tests do not run by manifest. Interesting. Accessibility tests need it. I'll just trust. And so we disable this for all the other cases. Toolkit, browser, for muting, yeah, testing our muting capabilities, and site data, forgetting, clearing plugin data, yep. And then again, extension stuff, blocking. So this is interesting. This is under like the blocking. This is the blocking code. All right. And then finally, widget tests. This makes sense because ultimately it all becomes part of the native layer. All right. So this looks good to me. I haven't done an exhaustive check to make sure that there aren't any places that we're missing, but I presume that Heist would have found that out from a try push. So I'm gonna say that this looks great. Looks great. Thanks. So that simplifies that. The good news is that we are going to destroy the plugin stuff. In 2020, when Flash is end of life, we can tear all this stuff out. It's really going to help with code complexity, bloat, all sorts of bad stuff that's been hanging around since NP API was introduced. It's going to be a nice day. I know there are a lot of great Flash games out there, but there's actually this really neat project. Rust, Flash, yeah, Ruffle. That's what I heard of. Ruffle. It's written in Rust. It's a Flash player emulator built in Rust. And this is apparently a Flash video, but is now being rendered via some Rust runtime on Canvas. It's been like, all right, you can like then compile it to WebAssembly. Long story short, it's possible that Ruffle will allow a lot of those Flash videos to remain alive. We shall see. All right, let's go back to our test here, Mandys Patch. Let's see if this test still fails. It does. That's interesting. So here's a possibility. What if this test always fails when run in isolation? Like what happens if we run all of the tests under this directory? The other thing is maybe this test has never passed for fission. That's the other thing to consider. We do have a list. Where is the list of failing tests? Fission tests. Anti-tracking. Skipped. Oh, so it's supposed to be skipping a lot of these anti-tracking tests. But the allow. Let's take a look at the definition of the manifest. Let's look at the manifest. A lot of these are skip if fission. Skip if OS equals Mac. Allow list separation in private and normal windows. Is that the name of the test? Yeah, allow list separation in private and normal windows. So of course it's failing with enable fission. This test is not designed to run with fission enabled. It's supposed to be skipped if fission is enabled. So why is it even running? That's really odd. Oh, sorry, wrong build. Allow us separation in private and normal windows. Allow us separation. Skip if OS goes Mac. Is it possible that there's like operator precedence here? Like skip if, should this be fission or that? Farah asks, what other uses for NP-API are left? Farah, is this Andreas Farah I'm speaking to? What other uses of NP-API are left? None that I can think of. Like it's all old stuff, like old Flash videos. Let's see here. It's all just keeping the old Flash. Like, we don't allow any other type of NP-API plugins in the browser. Full stop. Only for testing. Huh. So, are there any other uses for NP-API? None. Once Flash is done, once Flash is gone, it all comes out. All of the like Gecko Media plugin stuff for EME, all of that uses a completely separate code path, which is really, really nice because the NP-API stuff is pretty nasty. So this stuff all still failed, but was it the same test that failed? No. No, it didn't. I don't know if any of what I just did just helped. Let me undo this and try it again. Because I can't remember whether or not the errors that were listed, like, is this, here, the big list of skipped tests just showed up at the top. Is it configured to skip them? That's the important part. Yeah, it's configured to skip it. So how come it was failing for Mandy over here? Maybe you know, Andreas, like, is the Moki test fission tier 2 set supposed to just be running everything even if it's disabled for fission? I'm not sure if you know that. Sure is. Oh no, that's you saying that it sure is you. Let me ask in DOM fission actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join an IRC channel. If I can choose the right network. Apparently I cannot do that. So I will use a different IRC client. Oh, no, I've joined. That's good. DOM fission. There you are. It's just at the bottom. Okay, DOM fission. Create. Hey, for the MFizz tier 2 jobs, is the idea that those jobs run Moki tests on all Moki tests, even ones that have skip if fission? I ask because I'm trying to make sense of the tier 2 Fizz tier 2 failures on such and such, and whether or not this is something that M. Chang's patch somehow introduced. Oranges are something. Specifically, I'll note that the BC1 Linux x64 opt failure for browser failure on browser allow list separation in private and normal windows.js, which, at least according to this, so I'm having this conversation off screen because I haven't actually asked McCrate whether or not I can have it on screen. Let me pull up the evidence. According to this, is supposed to be messages. So no, skip if vision test should not be run. Aha, speaking of op failure, so at least according to this, is supposed to be disabled. Fari writes, I thought that skip would skip for mfizz, but I really don't know. I'll be very surprised if that were the fact. Fail if will be run, but failures are ignored. So maybe we found an issue here. The mfizz job somehow? Because yeah, we've got like, this is definitely not supposed to be running. Maybe there's some parens missing. I don't know how the association works. Skip if the OS is Mac and I'm not Debug or Fission. When I run that directory locally on my Linux VM, it does appear to skip that file when I run with enable fission. Let's take a look at the log. Let's go to the map. Test unexpected fail. So what were the skipped tests? Were there any? I don't see any reports of skipping tests. Oh, test skip. There we go. I see like about cert. A bunch of these are getting skipped for payments. So like, let's just pick one at random. Browser blocking IndexedDB. Why would this one be skipped in Toolkit Components anti-tracking? Actually, let's skip if fission or operating system is Linux. So let's look at this one, blocking DOM cache. Is that one also in this list? Yeah. And did we skip it? Yeah, we did. So how come we didn't skip this one? Toolkit Components anti-tracking test browser. Go to the very beginning. This is the first. We decide not to skip it on this platform. Okay, I'm being redirected. SmurfD is like, it doesn't have anything to do with the @ character? Yeah, you're referring to the comment. I don't think so. We're supposed to be allowed to comment like this. I've seen, this is pretty typical. Comment, like, everything after the hash is supposed to be ignored. Skip if. And like when I ran it like this, you could see it was skipping. Like if I run it without enable fission, does it skip? I don't think so. I don't think it will. Thinking. So yeah, normally, I'm just watching these fly by, but normally if you skip tests, then right at the very beginning, when the tests start going off, you'll see a big list. Before you start the browser Chrome test results, you just get a big list of the stuff that was skipped. So I'm just going to stop that now. Now I'm going to run it again with enable fission. Right. There's that big list at the top there. And here are all the things that we decide to skip, including like blocking DOM cache, which is one that we agreed should be blocked. So this is the one that for some reason isn't being. So it puts it in alphabetical order. Ooh, I'm getting a message in DOM fission. Maybe the test was enabled for whatever that test was enabled with. What? Maybe the test was enabled for whatever that test was enabled with. You mean the patch? Let's take a look at the patch. Could the patch have done this somehow? Removes this entry from the main thread IO, gets rid of the stuff that actually touches the disk, and updates this test, this XPC shell test, but otherwise does not touch our test infrastructure. The other thing to ask is, do I need to care? Like, what's a tier 2 tree policy tier 2? Mozilla. Sheriffing job visibility policy. Tier 2. Jobs are shown by default but are not sheriff managed. Results will be shown in tree herder for information only. New test failures or bustage will not result in a backout, but a tracking bug will be filed when observed. So maybe we should just go ahead and land this and like try and figure this out after, because all of them, like the perma failures, appear to be mfizz. Everything else here looked like it was intermittence that we'd seen before. This got fixed 7 months ago. Why are you hitting it now? Browser. Oh, maybe because of this one. The thing is, whenever you have a test failure, oftentimes the later test failures are cascading, in my experience anyways. There's like a cascading set of failures that will occur if after the first failure. That often occurs. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to see if we can land Mandys Patch. And the sheriffs can help me decide whether or not it works out. Because I'm pretty happy with with the patch. I think we should go ahead and land it. This is all very confusing, but let's try and get it into the tree. Okay, let's do it. Do it, do it, do it. All right, so that's going out there. And hopefully all goes well. These mphys jobs I'm hoping aren't gonna burn us, but we shall see. Do they even run on auto land? Not really. They don't. I don't see them running on Autoland. So maybe this is just not a thing we need to care about right now. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. Moving right along then. That's one thing. So reviewed, installs any, landed, enable subframe crash. So Fare, if you're still watching this, this is the subframe crashing thing. What did I have? I had this try push, and it was the same thing. It's the mphys builds where it's like all sorts of explosions, but maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't care about mphys tier 2 because those don't even run on Autoland right now. So maybe I should ignore all of the tier 2 tests here. Let's do that. Let's filter out tier 2. Here. And then what do we have left? We have this artifact build failure, but that looks like it was infrastructure. This is a known intermittent. Aha, this assertion failure. This looked real. Assertion failures are generally pretty real. And yeah, unexpected fail, DOM crash, oop frame. Yeah, this is the test that we added. So this looks real. And then over here, what did we have? The same failure. This is a known intermittent. Let's just tag that up. Must be logged in. Come on. Come on, don't do that to me. All right. Forgive the beep there. That's unrelated to what we were doing. Ooh, McCrate says, yeah, that try run was against a push before the disabling of the test landed. Aha. Aha. Got it. Ah. Okay, cool. Thank you. This is the try push that disabled it. Or this is the push that disabled it. I see. I see, okay. And it's against this one. I see, okay. I see, okay. Okay, I understand. So Mandys' original patch didn't actually have the disabling of the test that is being flaky with fission. I understand. Okay. Well, let's keep digging into this one. What was I doing? This is another intermittent. We're gonna save that. This looks real. And this looks real. Okay, let's examine this real failure. And let's do it on this Linux machine because hopefully I can reproduce this and maybe we can debug it. Linux x64 debug. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. On my debug, or on my Linux build here, I'm going to... I want to see if I can reproduce this. And it looks like I can only... These failures occur on debug builds only, so I need a debug build. But I don't want to waste your time. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to clobber, because I have to free up some it's based on this machine, I'm going to do an artifact debug build because the test change is actually just a JavaScript. Like the test is just a JavaScript file, so I don't have to. I'm not patching any of the binary code, so I can just use an artifact. So here, I'm going to use artifact debug. And I'm going to build an artifact debug build. Where am I in the tree? I'm going to prune off Mandys Patch. I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to pull down the Subframe crashing regression test patch. That's this one. So mosfab patch, apply to here, pull that down. Wicked. All right, so we've got our new test in the tree, and I'm all set up to do an artifact debug build. So I hit mock build, and we're doing artifact debug. So it's not instead of taking like 40 minutes to actually build a debug build, it's going to go download the various components from our from task cluster. It's going to find the right binary stuff to download. Then it's downloading it. Then it will all kind of package and link it all together locally, and then we're ready to go. So like there's no real building required, which is nice. And because it's a debug build, I can hopefully reproduce the failure, and then hopefully we could even use like RR to step through the code. And that might be exciting. All right. Oh, it looks like Heiss already landed that patch that we reviewed earlier. Very good. Very good. So, making progress. Waiting for this build to finish. Oh, almost done. Almost, and we're done. Okay, so let's try and reproduce this test failure. Mock Moki test. And where is it? It's... this was another intermittent, so we can put that away. Go away, status message, so I can click on this thing. It was a test under DOM IPC. That's what DOM IPC tests. And that's without fission enabled. Let's see what happens. Explosion. Okay, good, good, good. Let us record this with RR. And who's exploding? It's an assertion in content process manager. I'm gonna guess this is a parent process crash. That's what this is looking like. Now, it's reporting about a process crash that's occurring in C types, but that's like what we expect. We are intentionally crashing. Like the child process is crashing intentionally. So, well, we'll look at it. Fari's like, and please remember that I fixed a thing with subframe crash handling, but still in review. If you end up in browsing context Postorder Walk, then you know you've got my bug. Okay, and we could maybe apply that later. I'd have to do a full-blown build, but I remember I pulled up the patch that Fari was talking about. It's here. So there's a patch here. So in the event that we end up in Postorder Walk, it's probably this thing, and we can just wait for this to land before we enable the test. But let's replay. Let's replay what happened here. Well, first of all, let's look up and see more context about the failure. Where's the stack? Here's the stack. We're in message received, browser bridge parent, an assertion failure in the content process manager in notify tab destroying. Waiting for crash event. We crash, and there's an assertion failure when we notify tab destroying in the parent process. Okay, let's replay. Oh, run, sorry. Yeah, do it. What? Program stopped. Continue. What? Where are we? Can I not use can I not use RR on a artifact debug build? What a pain. Okay, so then we're gonna use GDB. Old school time. It's GDB time. Run. We might not be able to time travel, but we can at least do some inspection to see what's going on when we crash. All right, so where are we? Notify tab destroying. Where are we? We're trying to get the... This sounds really familiar. So we've received a message that we're destroying the browser bridge parent. And we're destroying the browser parent. Presumably this is in reaction to the crashing subframe. The browser bridge parent, here, let's look at the diagram. So, oh man, how do I make the image larger? Okay, so view image. Here we go. The browser bridge parent and the browser parent are associated with a subframe. You get like a browser parent that goes directly to a browser child whenever you have a top level frame, but as soon as there's a subframe, then you get a browser bridge child in the that runs inside the outer frame, the thing that's embedding the out of process iframe, and then that's associated with a browser bridge parent, which is associated with a browser parent, which points at the browser child for the subframe. Okay, so whenever Fari's like, I think I've seen something similar. When we try to send the IPC destructor for the browser bridge child, but IPDL param trait write asserts. And Charge Neon goes, woo, I get to catch another joy of coding. Yeah, Charge Neon, so good to have you here. So glad. And it's great to have you here, Fari. It's like co-pilot, helping me figure this stuff out. So you're saying you've seen something similar when we send the IPC destructor for the browser bridge child, which is what's happening here. The destructor is being received by the parent. We destroy, then we call notify tab destroying, and then here in get content process by ID. Let's take a look where we are in the actual code, if we can. I can't actually look at the code. Unreal. Wait, I've got an update from KMag in DOM Fission about the tests that were failing earlier for Mandys change. Eventually, I'm hoping to come up with a way to run just the skip if fission tests so that we can find the ones that no longer fail, but we can't run them in normal runs. Most of them time out, and with 5-minute timeouts, that adds up fast and makes entire jobs time out, and a lot of them crash and cause the rest of the directory to be skipped, and a bunch of them fail in unclean ways that causes layer tests in the same session to fail. Okay. Right. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. And this all sounds very familiar from, we did this exact thing, same thing for the E10S test for E10S. Okay, so I can't actually look at the code in GDB, but I have my stack. So it wasn't very useful to be able to attach GDB, but I at least can I get a line number here? No, I can't. Damn it. All right, well, let's take a look at get content process by ID. You know, I saw this failure before. Whenever I was first, could it be this? Assert and less fuzzing? I think I've seen this before. For debug builds, we'll hit this. And of course, for non-debug builds, we won't. Who's this called by? Notify tab destroying. Okay. In content parent. He goes, going back to Mandys test. As for that test, the skip if was just added and should really be a fail if, so it probably isn't in that push. Fair. Okay. Back in Twitch, SmurfD is saying, can't you do the Control X A trick in GDB? You'd think so, except that I'm pretty sure. Yeah, GDB has no idea where the source code is, or it just, its directories are all, because it wasn't built on my machine is the problem. It's like looking for this, and like it's looking for the paths that existed on the machine where this debug build of Firefox was built, and they're not on my machine. So I could, in theory, try and find the paths and like symlink a bunch of stuff, but that would be a nightmare. Probably what would be easier, and I'll do this in the background, is I'll get a debug build going, a real debug build. But I'm reasonably certain that if we can probably inspect this. So there's a get content process by ID right here. Is that the only one? There's a get browser parent count by process ID, but I think it's this one. There can be more than one pbrowser for a given app process because of pop-up windows. Pbrowsers can also destroy concurrently. When all the pbrowsers are destroying, kick off another test to ensure the child process really shuts down, even if the pbrowsers themselves never finish destroying. So we are notifying that, but a tab didn't destroy. I don't know if that's a problem, but this isn't a tab, this is a subframe. But maybe we reuse all this stuff anyways. Maybe the notion of a tab ID is kind of being reused for subframes. Who calls you? You destroy the browser parent. Like, is this necessary? What does this do, notify tab destroying? We can get it called inside the content process, and then we'll send the parent a message that the tab destroyed. Okay. This seems, looking just at the bug number and the date, 2015, this sounds like it was probably something for Firefox OS would be my guess. Yeah, Firefox OS. The nested out of process case. You. Okay. A tab destroyed. Do we know why? We're not given a reason for browser parent destroy. What are we given? We've received a message. We're calling destroy subtree, and then all of these destroy methods are being called, but we're not given a reason why. I would guess that the actor destroy reason is that like the pipe has shut down. It's an abnormal shutdown. So we get these destroy methods called. What's the difference between destroy and what was the other one? Actor. Actor destroy. With actor destroy, we'd be told why. Destroy internal. Destroy. Close that. So whenever the browser bridge parent actor receives the message to destroy, it calls its own destroy method, which then calls the browser parent's destroy method. So the destroy method's this thing that's not like, it's not one of those automatic things like actor destroy is one of those things that you implement as an IPC actor, which the IPC interface, like the whole IPDL IPC infrastructure calls on you whenever the communications pipeline shuts down. But this is new. This was added. Release the window immediately. To avoid leaking the world and shut down corner cases. Tab ID. The tab ID. Is the tab ID still used whenever you have... Let's go back. Where's the diagram? The subframe. Browser parent. Each of these has a tab ID. I wonder if part of the problem is that this is like poorly named now. It should probably be something like notify frame destroying. And this should be a frame ID? Browser parent. Tab ID. Figure out semantics of tab ID. This looks like it'll be a fun read. Tab ID is an identifier for a pbrowser actor. This made sense when the implementations were tab parent, tab child, but now they are browser parent, browser child. It's a bit odd. It seems that there are two different possible meanings here. An identifier for a pbrowser actor, maximal contiguous subtree of browsers, or an identifier for a remote top-level tab. One is a subset of two, and the current semantics are one. It's an identifier for a pbrowser actor, so not necessarily a tab. So that's useful. So the tab ID is just the identifier for us, a browser parent. It's a unique identifier. Okay. And we want to notify destroying. Let's go back over here. We're destroying. Now the problem is that the destroying in this case is occurring because it crashed. We don't have the content process anymore. It's gone. So that's why we're going to try and get the content parent map from here, but it's going to fail, and we're going to assert. Why are we asserting? Assert unless fuzzing. from? Did this get moved from somewhere, or was all of this just added? Looks like it was all just added. Unless... Chrome process. Conroy. Currently, we say lack principal checks. Let's take a look at the patch. Splinter! No, it's not in here. Patch 2. Yeah. We assert get content process by ID. We expect, we made it so that this will always have, like, we're checking. Pointer. Is there a good reason that we're asserting? Well, in the event that we're crashing and the content process is gone, we bail out early, and there's no point in doing any of this work. Like, nothing occurs. Let's pretend that we don't assert. What happens? We enter this function and then we bail out right here. So none of this stuff needs to occur, which tells me that probably what needs to happen, or what I suspect needs to occur, is we need to know if we've crashed. If the reason that we're crashing is because, or the reason that we're being destroyed is because we're crashing, we should probably not do this. I wonder if what we should do is pipe down the reason that we're destroying. So this is browser parent destroy. Who calls browser parent destroy? Browser bridge parent destroy. Who calls that? Actor destroy. So if the Y, the actor destroy reason could be like abnormal shutdown. So maybe we could pass like an argument saying destroy because we're crashing. And then pipe that down. So that would go through here, browser bridge parent. Okay, so it would say, okay, we're crashing. If we have a browser parent, call destroy on it and tell it whether or not we're crashing. And then in here, we would say, hey, we're crashing. Don't do this part if we're crashing. And then maybe that would fix this. All right, I'm gonna write up that plan in the bug and see what, I mean, Faria, if you're still watching, let me know what you think, but I'm basically gonna write this up in a bug and either need info yourself or Nika or both and and get your feedback. But I think that's what I think makes the most sense. But first, maybe what I'll do is I'll get this stack copied. Hello, am I still on the internet? Where? There we go. There we go. Enable subframe crashing regression test. So I think I had run into this before. We're removing the content parent after the crash. And then, yeah, I was hitting this before. And I did have a stack. So it's like gone one big circle. So I'm still hitting the stack, the So in debug builds, we this test still causes a main thread or a main process, parent process, crash due to an assertion failure with the same stacks from comment. What comment was that? Comment 4. What I'm thinking of, so it seems, so the problem appears to be that when we have a crashing subframe, we end up calling actor destroy on the browser bridge parent here. So here, should probably, I'll be going back and forth a lot, so I'm going to pin that, and I'll pin this. I'm a pin of that, and then I'm a pin of this. We end up calling, now I can use Markdown. Say we end up calling actor destroy on the browser bridge parent, which calls destroy on the browser parent. Sweet, sweet Markdown. Which then calls notify tab destroying, content parent notify tab destroying, content parent notify tab destroying, attempts to get a content parent associated with the content parent ID, content parent ID that was passed to it, but because that content parent was removed from its list via the stack in comment five, we end up hitting this assert unless fuzzing. That's why we're crashing on debug builds. One immediate observation is that in the non-debug build case, instead of calling assert, instead of failing with assert unless fuzzing, content parent hang on, instead of failing with assert unless fuzzing, content parent get content process by ID returns null pointer, which then causes notify tab destroying to bail out immediately. What I suspect we want to do here is to not call notify tab destroying if we're responding to a subframe crash. To a crash. None of the things, as far as I can tell, none of the things inside of notify tab destroying make sense to do if we're crashing, since it's mostly concerned with bookkeeping and to determine whether or not we should shut down the content process that the frame or tab is associated with. What I suggest is that we pipe the reason for shutting down through browser bridge parent or not the reason. What I suggest is that we pass a boolean from browser bridge parent down to browser parent, saying down to browser parent, and when calling destroy method, whether, and that bit tells us whether or not the destruction is due to an abnormal shutdown. In the abnormal shutdown, are there other shutdowns that abnormal? There are a couple of different cases. Normal shutdown, ancestor deletion, failed constructor. Probably just abnormal shutdown. It's due to an abnormal shutdown. If so, we have browser parent skip Is this the right link? Yeah. Having browser parent destroy. Browser parent destroy. Skip calling. Notify tab destroying if that bit, if we're crashing. Any objections to that plan, Fare or Nika? Booyah. Done. Wrote a big comment. So, wait for information there. But the other good news is that we reviewed a thing and we also auto-landed a thing. And oh boy, what auto-land is red for Monkey test failures. But not our Monkey test failures. Well, that's good. At least I... Oh man, looks like I landed just whenever everything in the tree exploded. So hopefully the test green, or the tree greens up. All right. Well, with that, I think I'm going to call this episode. That was episode 188 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. We didn't actually write much code, but we sure read a bunch of it, and we learned a little bit about how things relate to one another. Wrote a big comment. Let's link to that here. I mean, we could, in theory, land the subframe crashing test with debug disabled. And then we could work on getting it enabled for debug mode. But unless this ends up being a big hairy ball of wax, and my solution ends up being not nearly good enough and there's like a lot more work to do, then I probably won't go that route. I'll make sure I can like turn it on for both debug and normal builds at the same time. And with that, let's call it here. Thank you so much for watching episode 188 of The Joy of Coding. Oh, hang on, before I forget, let me know what you thought of the episode. There's a link in the agenda, and in all the places where you found the agenda, there's a link there to rate this episode. So smash that link, ring that link bell, and let me know what you think. I read everything that comes in, and hopefully, I can help make this stream better for you. Let me know what you thought. What works? What doesn't work? What would you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? Do you need more sound effects? Would you prefer I'd be hitting the whole like Do those help? Do those hinder? Do you have requests for sound effects? Maybe that's a classic. Let me know. And with that, let's really shut her down. Thanks again for watching episode 188, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.